Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to show you how to set up a basic CI/CD pipeline using GitLab CI in order to test, build, and deploy a basic Angular app to AWS. This is going to be a standard setup in most workplaces, and it is a fantastic way in order to automate your deployments and make sure that your app is always in sync with your latest code changes. Let's get started. Okay, so first things first, let's go ahead and create a repository on GitLab. Maybe new project, create blank project, call it YouTube demo CI, make it private, don't need the README, I'm gonna create. Next, I'm just gonna create a new Angular app. If you're new to Angular, no worries, we're just gonna add a simple app. We're not gonna modify it or anything. And you're gonna have to make sure that you have npm and Node.js installed. So the command is gonna be ng new demo CI. And now we're just gonna link our local repository to our remote one. I'm just gonna follow the instructions here. First of all, I'm gonna cd to our repository. So it's YouTube demo CI. And one thing, if you notice, Angular creates by default creates a master branch, while actually on GitLab it's a main branch. So I'm gonna have to rename that. So it's gonna be git branch from master to main. Cool. Now I'm just gonna copy the other instructions. So this one to link the remote and to set the stream. Okay, so normally if I refresh, we have our project on GitLab. So next, what I want to do actually is I'm gonna open this on VS Code. So for now, our app looks like this. So if I do npm run start, so for now it just looks like this. One thing I want to do is change the testing framework. By default, Angular uses Karma, and Karma it runs on a browser, which is a little bit complicated when you want to test on the CI. So I'm gonna try to migrate this very fast to Jest, which is another framework that runs on the command line. With the latest version of Angular, it's actually pretty simple. We're just gonna go to Angular JSON, search for test, and change this from Karma to Jest with the following config. And we're going to have to need two more packages that we're going to add, which are Jest and Jest environment JSDOM. Good. I have to remove this. I'm gonna run an npm install just to add the yep. Okay, now it should be good. npm run test. Great. So we see our tests are running correctly on the command line. We're gonna push these changes. We'll call it setup, commit, sync, and we're good to go. Now I'm gonna move to AWS this time. We're gonna have to create an account, and we're gonna have two ways in order to deploy our app. The most known ones are either S3 or EC2 instance, but the faster one is just an S3 instance. So in order to create one, you're gonna search bucket or S3 bucket, and we're gonna create one. Let's call it again YouTube demo CI. I'm gonna disable these just for to simplify, and create bucket. Yep, I accept and acknowledge. Okay, now that we created our bucket, we need to make it available and accessible. In order to do that, first of all, we're gonna have to go ahead to properties and go ahead to static website hosting and enable it. For the index document, it should be the same thing, so index.html. And the second thing is we're gonna have to edit the bucket policy. I already did that, so normally you should have this section blank, and you need to change the policy to this with the bucket name here. I'm gonna add this in the description. Once that's done, you save, and now we're gonna move to the last thing we need to do in AWS, which is actually creating a user. So go ahead to manage access to AWS resources and go to users. I already created a user. In your case, you're gonna have to create another one. For me, I'm just gonna come here, and normally when you create a user, you're going to be asked to create an access key. As you can see, for me, I already have one. I'm gonna create another one. And one other thing is when you're creating a user, you need to add this policy name, which is Amazon S3 full access, and link it to the user. So for now, I'm gonna add another access key to demonstrate how we link this to GitLab. So access key, we're gonna need the first one, command line interface CLI. Accept this, next. Don't need any tags, and we're good. Now that we did that, we need to set up our GitLab CI variables. In order to access that, we go to setting, CI/CD, and we go to variables. Now we're gonna have to add 4 variables here. The first one, we're going to call it, I'm gonna copy it, AWS access key ID, which is going to be this one. I'm gonna copy it, tag, move any extra spaces and add. The second one is we're gonna call it AWS secret key, copy it, and the value is this. So first of all, you need to copy this key before you click done, otherwise you're gonna lose it. I'm gonna copy the value, add variable, and the 2 last variables we're gonna need is the AWS default region. This you can actually get it from the bucket. So I'm gonna save this, done, continue. I'm gonna get back to the bucket. As you can see, the YouTube demo, the AWS region is the EU North. So I'm gonna do EU North. And the last one is the S3 bucket name. And the bucket name is YouTube demo CI. Nice, we have everything we need. Now we need to get started with the GitLab CI script.
A few moments later.
Okay, so now it's time to actually write the script that's gonna make the pipeline show up on GitLab. So in order to do that, what's going to need to do is to add a new file. I'm gonna call it Gitlab-ci.yml. And so here, the first thing that we're gonna need to do is to define the stages or the jobs of the pipeline. In our case, we're gonna add 3. The first one is test, second is gonna be build, and the last one is gonna be deploy. So to define those, we're gonna add stages, and we're gonna define each one. So it's test, build, deploy. Second thing that we're going to need is the variables that we previously defined in GitLab. So in order to add them to the script, first of all, I'm gonna go fetch them from GitLab. So in settings, CI/CD, variables. So in the scripts, I'm just gonna copy the name of each variable. So that's for the label, and for the values, the same thing, but with a $sign at the beginning. We're gonna do the same thing for the others. Default region, the AWS secrets key, and the bucket name. Okay, now the last thing is to actually define what are we going to do in each stage. So in order to do that, we're going to define each stage, and we're going to add a script to it. For now, I'm just going to add a basic script, like just echo hello, for example, test. And I'm going to do the same thing for the others, just to see what's going to actually be displayed in GitLab. So this one is build, and the last one is deploy. Now if I go ahead and push this, I'll call it pipe. Normally I should have a pipeline that's going to show up on the pipeline section. So in order to see that, I'm going to go to the dashboard, the build, and pipelines. The older ones are just tests that I've been using, but for you it should be this only one. And as you can see, what we have here is 3 jobs that are actually running on the same time, and this is something that we usually don't want to do. So in order to run them separately, we are going to actually define in our script that each job is actually in its own stage. For example, here we're going to call it stage test, and this has to be stage build, and this has to be stage. I'll be careful with the spaces, and this is going to be stage deploy. And one last thing is, usually when it comes to the deploy stage, it's something that you want to do manually instead of automatically. For example, if you want to deploy to the production environment, usually you want to do it manually. So in order to do that, I'm just going to add when and manual. Now if I push that, so pipe fix, build, commit, sync. Yep, we have a new pipeline with 3 jobs that each one is running separately. And normally when these 2 finish, the last one is going to be manual. So I'm just going to wait them to finish. Okay, the first one is done. And the second one is done. Now the last one, as you can see, it's manual, so I have to actually trigger it manually in order to run it. And it's running. And as you can see, what's actually being executed in the stage or in the job is just the script that we defined. For example, here, hello test. This is a command and this is the result. And now the 3 jobs did run successfully. So with this done, now it's time to actually define each script with the actual commands that we're going to need to perform each stage. Okay, so let's start with the test stage. So usually what we want to do is to just run the npm run test, which is what we defined in our package log. So in order to run tests, we just do npm run test. But before we do that, we actually need to run npm CI to install our packages. A lot of people use a separate stage for this. So for example, they do a stage called install or npm CI, and they just perform this on a separate stage. But just to simplify, I'm just gonna include it with the test stage. And one last thing is that if I push this right now, we're gonna get an error that says that npm is not a recognized command, which is normal because we didn't actually install npm or node. Now, instead of actually installing them manually on the script, we are just gonna pull a Docker image that already have node and npm installed. So in order to do that, we're just gonna do image and node latest. Now, if you're new to Docker, Docker is just like a container that we can install software in, and the container can work pretty much in any environment. Images like Node are actually stored in Docker Hub, which contain a lot of images for different technologies and softwares. In most cases, you're going to find all the Docker images that you need on the Docker Hub, but sometimes you might need to create like a custom Docker image depending on your needs. Anyway, we continue. So now that we have Node installed, we have access to npm CI, npm run test. For the build stage, we're going to do the same thing. So it's going to be npm run build. As well, this is something that we specified in the package.json this way. Usually in the workplace, you might have like an ng build for production to like differentiate between the dev environment and the prod. We don't, so we're just gonna keep it simple. And something that we might add, we have to add in the build stage is actually where we want to store the artifact. I have different options here, but I only want to set the path to dist. This one will store our artifact. And good practice as well is to actually cache the node module that was generated after we run npm CI. In order to do that, we're just gonna do cache path and node modules. This way, if there were no changes in the packages, we don't have to reinstall all the dependencies. Now the last thing that we need is the deploy. Now in this case, in order to actually deploy our app to AWS, we are going to need Amazon AWS CLI. Now the same thing, instead of installing it manually, it's better to just pull a Docker image that already have the AWS CLI installed. So in this case, what I'm going to do is just call an image. And if I search on Docker Hub, Amazon CLI, normally it should show up this one. So we need this one. This is what I'm going to pull. So the image name going to be Amazon AWS CLI, and it's always good practice to add the latest. And apparently we have to add an entry point, which is the user slash, just the slash user slash bin slash inf. Otherwise, our commands are not gonna get recognized. So basically what's gonna happen here is that this image is gonna override this one. Normally what we should have done is to create a custom Docker image that contain both Node and AWS. But for now, I'm just gonna stick with this simple approach. Maybe in a different video, we can like see how to create a custom Docker image. Okay, so now for the script, it's gonna be AWS S3, S3 sync, and here we're gonna have to specify the artifact that we want to sync. So normally it should be in the test file. As you can see, I already ran npm run build locally, and it generated me this folder right here. So it's dist, YouTube demo CI browser, and these are the files that we want to push to our AWS S3. I'm gonna give it this path. So it's dist YouTube demo CI browser. And lastly, we're gonna specify the bucket URL, which is S3. The bucket name, which we stored here. And I'm gonna add the delete flag to make sure that our bucket can contain an exact match of our local artifact. Normally we should be good. I'm gonna push this and see what it gives us. So final script. I'm gonna have to save and sync. Now if we go ahead and see our pipelines. Okay, we have the test script running. Okay, cool. So as you can see, we have the npm run test command that did run, and we have all the tests that did execute successfully. Now it's time to look at the build test, build stage. And it did run also successfully. Now lastly is the deploy stage. Now before I click here, I'm just gonna make sure that our bucket doesn't have anything uploaded. So as you can see, the YouTube demo CI does nothing inside. And if we try to go to the URL, it doesn't work. So now if I try to deploy, as you can see, this time it didn't pull the Node Docker image, but instead it did pull the Amazon CLI image. And we got an error. The user provided path this YouTube demo browser does not exist. Normally it should be just this slash that I didn't have to add. So I'm gonna push this, commit, fix, yeah, push, sync. I'm gonna speed it up and see the results.
A few inches later.
Okay, the first two jobs were finished. I'm just gonna run it again. Oh, I forgot the $sign. My bad. Forgot the $sign.
One eternity later.
Okay, now this time it should work, I believe. And we're done. So normally it did upload the files. I'm gonna go check the bucket. Objects, I'm gonna refresh. And we have all the files. Now if I check the URL, and boom, we successfully uploaded our app. Oh my God! And voila, thank you for watching this demo. If you have any questions, you can find me live on Twitch, or you can just leave a comment below. Thank you for your support, and see you on the next video.